Spain, 1964, a dust-covered film set outside Almeria. No major studio backing, no Hollywood safety net. Just a crazy Italian director, a washed-up American TV actor, and a script everyone said would never work. Clint Eastwood stands in the middle of the desert wearing a poncho that smells like horse sweat and cigarettes, squinting into the sun, listening to men in suits tell him exactly how to ruin his career. The telegram arrived 3 days ago, sent from United Artists executives in Los Angeles. Read it twice, both times it said the same thing. The character doesn't work. Too quiet, too cold. American audiences need a hero who talks, who explains, who shows emotion. Make him likable, make him relatable, make him smile. The studio wants changes, major changes. They want dialogue added. They want backstory. They want Clint's character to have a name, a family, a reason to care. They want everything Sergio Leone specifically told him not to do. Sergio Leone sits in his director's chair, hat pulled low, cigar between his teeth, watching Clint read the telegram for the third time. Sergio already knows what it says. He got his own version. Same demands, same threats. Change the film or lose American distribution. Without American distribution, the film dies. Everyone knows it. The crew knows it. The Italian producers know it. The $15,000 paycheck Clint desperately needs to feed his family back in California depends on it. Clint folds the telegram slowly, looks at Sergio. Sergio looks back. Neither man speaks. The desert wind picks up dust between them. Somewhere in the distance, a horse stamps its foot. The crew watches, waiting. A production assistant shifts nervously. The cinematographer Tonino Delicoli lowers his camera. Everyone can feel something breaking, or about to break. Sergio speaks first. His English is broken, but his meaning is clear. They want cowboy who talks, like television, like Rawhide. Clint doesn't respond immediately. He's thinking, calculating. He spent 7 years playing Rowdy Yates on Rawhide, 7 years saying lines written by people who didn't understand him, 7 years smiling on cue, being likable, being safe, being exactly what the studios wanted, and it nearly destroyed him, made him feel like a puppet, a product, not an actor, not an artist, just a face that sold commercials during commercial breaks. He came to Spain specifically to escape that, to try something different, to work with a director who saw something in silence that American studios couldn't see, who understood that mystery is more powerful than explanation, that restraint is more dangerous than noise. Sergio saw it. That's why he cast Clint, not despite his refusal to perform, but because of it. The studio representative on set is a man named Michael, mid-40s, expensive suit completely wrong for the Spanish desert, sweating through his shirt, uncomfortable, out of place. He approaches Clint carefully, voice diplomatic but firm. "Mr. Eastwood, we need to discuss the notes." Clint doesn't look at him, still staring at the telegram. Michael continues. "The character needs more dimension, more humanity. Audiences need to connect with him. Right now, he's just a killer. We need to see why he kills, what motivates him, what he's fighting for." Clint finally looks up. His face is completely neutral, not angry, not defensive, just watching. Michael interprets the silence as an opening, keeps talking. "We're thinking a scene early in the film, maybe a flashback. Show his family. Maybe they were killed by bandits. Give him a reason. Give the audience something to hold on to, something that makes them root for him." Clint lets him finish, lets every word hang in the dry air. Then he asks one question. His voice is quiet, controlled. "You think the character needs to explain himself?" Michael nods enthusiastically. "Yes, exactly. The audience needs to understand him." Clint looks at Sergio. Sergio's face shows nothing, but his eyes say everything. They say this is your choice, your career, your risk. Clint turns back to Michael, speaks slowly, precisely, every word measured. The character doesn't explain himself because he doesn't need to. His actions explain him. His silence explains him. The way he moves explains him. If I have to tell the audience who he is, then I'm not doing my job. Michael's smile tightens. With respect, Mr. Eastwood, you're not a star yet. You're a TV actor trying to break into films. The studio knows what works. They've been doing this for 40 years. This is your first lead role in a feature. Maybe trust the process. The words land like stones. The crew goes completely still. Nobody breathes. Clint doesn't react, doesn't raise his voice, doesn't show anger, just looks at Michael for a long moment. Then he does something nobody expected. He walks away, not dramatically, not storming off, just turns and walks toward his trailer. Steady pace, boots crunching on gravel. Michael calls after him. "Mr. Eastwood, we need to discuss this." Clint doesn't turn around, doesn't acknowledge the words, just keeps walking. Sergio watches him go, still sitting in his chair, still smoking his cigar. The crew exchanges glances, confused, worried. Production assistant whispers to the cinematographer, "Is he coming back?" Inside the trailer, Clint sits on the small bench. The space is cramped, hot, smells like dust and cheap soap. He pulls out a piece of paper, writes 2 sentences, folds it, steps back outside. The whole crew is watching now, 30 people frozen in place. Michael is talking to Sergio in rapid English, gesturing, frustrated. Clint walks past them, doesn't stop, walks to where the horses are tied, finds the production manager, a young Spaniard named Carlos who speaks broken English. Clint hands him the folded paper. Carlos opens it, reads it. His eyes go wide. He looks at Clint. "Are you serious?" Clint nods once. Carlos swallows hard, takes the paper, walks to Sergio, hands it to him. Sergio reads it. His face doesn't change. But he stands up, slowly, takes the cigar out of his mouth, looks at Clint across 50 feet of desert. Clint looks back. The paper says 2 things. First sentence, "I'll do the film the way we discussed, or I won't do it at all." Second sentence, "I leave in 1 hour." Michael rushes over. What does it say? What did he write? Sergio hands him the paper. Michael reads it. His face goes red, then white. He looks at Clint. "You can't be serious. You're walking away from $15,000? From your first starring role?" Clint's voice is quiet, but it carries across the whole set. "I'm walking away from becoming something I don't want to be." Michael starts to respond, but Sergio raises his hand, cuts him off. Sergio walks toward Clint. The crew parts, creates a path. 2 men face each other in the Spanish sun. Director and actor. Artist and artist. Sergio speaks, his English rough, but his meaning crystal clear. "You trust me?" Clint doesn't hesitate. "Yes? You trust yourself?" Clint thinks for 3 seconds, then nods. "Yes." Sergio turns to Michael, to the crew, to everyone watching. His voice is loud, authoritative. "We make the film our way. No changes, no dialogue, no backstory, nothing the studio wants. If they don't like it, they don't release it. But we make it right, or we don't make it at all." Michael's hands shake. "You're both insane. This will end your careers." Sergio smiles for the first time all day. "Maybe, but at least we end them as artists, not as cowards." Michael storms off, grabs his bag, heads for the car that will take him back to Madrid, back to Los Angeles, back to the studio that wants safe and predictable and guaranteed. The crew watches him go. Then they look at Sergio, at Clint, waiting for direction, waiting to see if this mad experiment continues or collapses. Sergio points at the set, points at the camera. "We shoot. Now. No more talking. Just shoot." Clint walks back to his mark. The poncho settles around his shoulders. The hat goes back on his head. His face becomes stone, empty, dangerous. Exactly what the studio said wouldn't work. Exactly what Sergio knows is perfect. The camera rolls. Clint doesn't say a word, doesn't need to. His eyes say everything. His stillness says everything. The scene is 2 minutes long, contains maybe 10 words, but it's electric, raw, unlike anything American cinema has seen. They finish the film in 6 weeks, work 16-hour days, brutal heat, minimal budget, No interference because the studio has written them off, expects the film to fail, plans to bury it in limited release, and move on. When A Fistful of Dollars is completed, United Artists watches the rough cut, silent theater, executive screening room, lights come up, nobody speaks. The head of distribution stands, walks out without a word. The film is shelved, sits in a vault for months. European release is modest. Some success in Italy, in Spain. But nothing massive, nothing that suggests what's coming. Then something unexpected happens. Word of mouth. Audiences in Rome start talking. Crowds in Madrid grow. The film that breaks every rule starts making money. Real money. United Artists notices. Reluctantly gives it a small American release. Limited theaters. Low expectations. But American audiences react the same way European audiences did. They've never seen anything like it. A hero who doesn't explain himself, who doesn't apologize, who exists in silence and violence and absolute control. Box office numbers climb, week after week. The film that was supposed to fail becomes a phenomenon. Clint Eastwood becomes a star overnight. Not for what he said, for what he didn't say, for the refusal to compromise, for walking away when they told him to change. The Man with No Name becomes iconic, spawns 2 sequels, launches Clint into superstardom, changes the entire language of Western films, of action films, of cinema itself, all because one actor and one director chose integrity over safety, chose silence over noise, chose risk over guarantee. 5 years later, Clint is back in Hollywood, major star now, box office power. Studios want him for everything. He's in a meeting at Warner Brothers, discussing a new project. The executives love him, tell him how smart he was to stick with Leone, how brilliant that gamble was. One executive leans forward, smiling, says, "You really showed everyone. Took a hell of a risk, but it paid off." Clint looks at him, face neutral, voice quiet. It wasn't a risk. It was the only choice. The executive doesn't understand, says, "But you could have lost everything." Clint stands, prepares to leave the meeting, says one thing before he walks out. Compromising who you are isn't losing something. It's losing everything. The executive sits there, confused, doesn't get it. But Clint doesn't need him to get it. He learned the lesson in a Spanish desert in 1964. Learned it when he folded that telegram, when he wrote those 2 sentences, when he gave himself 1 hour to be hired as himself or leave as himself. No middle ground, no negotiation, no version of success that required becoming someone else. That's what the studio never understood. That's what Michael never grasped, standing there sweating in his expensive suit. They thought they were offering Clint a career. They were actually offering him a cage. And Clint Eastwood doesn't do cages. Never did. Never will. He'd rather walk away from everything than walk into a prison built from other people's fear. That's not stubbornness. That's not ego. That's knowing exactly who you are and refusing to audition for the role of someone else. The Man with No Name wasn't a character. It was a philosophy. It was a middle finger to every system that demands you explain yourself, justify yourself, soften yourself for mass consumption. Clint understood what Sergio understood. That mystery is power. That silence is strength. That the most dangerous thing you can be is exactly who you are without apology or explanation. 50 years later, film students study that walk across the Spanish desert, frame by frame, trying to decode how Clint Eastwood made doing nothing look like everything, how he turned refusal into revolution, how he walked off set and walked into legend. The answer isn't in film school, it's in that folded telegram, in those 2 sentences, in the willingness to lose everything rather than compromise the one thing nobody can replace, yourself. So here's the real question, the one that matters more than film history or box office numbers or iconic characters. When someone offers you success but demands you change who you are to get it, what do you do? Do you take the deal? Do you smile and soften and explain yourself until you're palatable enough for mass approval? Or do you fold the offer in half, walk away, and bet everything on the belief that the world needs who you actually are more than it needs another version of who they want you to be. Clint Eastwood made his choice in the Spanish desert. He's been making the same choice for 60 years. That's not a career. That's a statement. And the statement is simple. Some things aren't for sale. Some things don't negotiate. Some things just are. And if you can't accept them, that's not my problem. That's yours. The man with no name doesn't need one. He just needs to know who he is. And be that. Completely. Without permission. Without explanation. Without compromise. That's the only role worth playing. And Clint Eastwood has never auditioned for anything else.